All right, guys, so I've decided to do my own little test here about axles being secured or free spinning. This car was built a while ago. The jig that I used was an older jig, which I found on Thingiverse, and that's a type that most of you guys use, something like the Redline Derby one, which are great jigs, by the way, but my printer just printed it a little off, and therefore my axles in this car are slightly crooked. So I know this car is super slow. So let's take a look and see what time this car comes in with. We'll do 2 runs so we get some kind of consistency or pattern, and then we'll take it apart and dissect it. All right, so this first run is pretty damn slow. It's a 3.691. This car cannot make it down my open track. It can't make it up the first hump. That's how slow it is. Well, let's check out, give it another run, and then we'll see. Hopefully the times are kind of similar. So let's see, there you go, another 3.777, super slow. So the next clips here are I'm just gonna speed it up. I wanted you guys to see that I'm actually taking out the epoxy and not messing up anything or changing anything. Trying to make this as true as possible. So I'm just digging out the epoxy, and that channel there has to be really clean, especially in the type of jig that I'm putting it in now, which is more like the red pill style jig where it pulls the axles towards one side. All right, so we're putting it back together. I'm gonna leave the axles on this one free spinning, and then we'll do 2 runs and we'll see if it made any difference between the epoxied crooked axle that it had. All right, here we go. I gave it 2 runs and it couldn't have gotten any worse than it was, but the results I don't think are that shocking. But yes, it did improve quite a bit actually. It went to a 3.112, which is pretty decent. It'll make it down my open track now with that kind of time. I'll give you guys the second run here. Same lane, not switching up anything, trying to keep it as consistent as we can. And his time was pretty decent again. It was a 3.155, so pretty drastic from what it was. I think it was like a 3.7, 3.6, 3.7. But took it apart, gonna epoxy it, and then we'll see how it compares to the original epoxy job with a slightly crooked axle, if it gets any better from that, and then also compare it to the 2 free axle runs we just did. We know that had quite an improvement, so we'll see if we epoxy it back down, if it'll slow it back down again, or if actually aligning the axles properly will help with speed. Okay, so at this point the epoxy is done drying. We're gonna put it back together. I'm putting in that piece in there that holds the axles down, just to keep our test as consistent as possible. That is a little extra weight, not much, very little, but I want to keep this consistent. So here we go, let's do our 2 runs, and then you guys can judge for yourself which is better or not. So that first run came in at a 3.133, which is a huge improvement over the axle being epoxied in crookedly, and it's sitting right where the free axle run was. Pretty similar in time. Let's take a second run, and then you guys can be the judge and figure out which is best for your own builds. I know this won't put a nail in the coffin, so to speak, because this is just a small sample, but hopefully this gives some insight. And the second run pretty consistent as well with a 3.112. So both the free axle and the epoxied axle, which was aligned properly, are running around the same. The free axle had a 3112 and a 3115. The epoxied axle had a 3133 and a 3112. So they both came up with a run of 3.112. The epoxied axle came up with a 3.133 versus a 3.155 in the free spinning axle. So that's a couple hundredths faster, which is not super convincing. So it's too close to call, I think. Either way, they both work great. Maybe one is better for drag and one is better for open road. I've heard that conversation as well. I'm still not sure. I know on my open track, both sides do well on there as well. So it's up for grabs. Who knows? It's up for you guys to decide, I guess. I hope this little test helped put some curiosity to sleep. Or it could have just opened a whole new rabbit hole. Who the hell knows? But hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.